I have a poncho here. Have you ever been told that a movie was really bad, then you went to go watch it, only to find out that it was actually good and the people that were watching it didn't have any taste? That was kind of like what this episode was. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jer and we are talking about Canada's Drag Race Season 5, Episode 6. This is the Snatch Game. There is so much to talk about this episode, but before we get into it, here's some highlights. I really like the idea of the wooden beaver. Production was really heavy-handed in this episode and I was not a fan, and I really don't think that this was the episode to deviate so hard. They're trying to make us think that this episode is the diva worship episode from season 11 bad. Remember that one where they had to do a diva that they were gonna worship, and there was that one team that all tried to do Mariah Carey diva worship and all of them had to lip sync because they were so bad? Yeah, that's what they're trying to pretend this Snatch Game was. And it was not that bad. There were so many standouts, so many stars, so many funny moments. Was the reading challenge wretched? Yes. But was the Snatch Game that bad? No. And so it was like this episode was so hyped up by production that it was bad. And I got to the end thinking, am I crazy? I've gotta be nuts to think that this was good. I'm curious to hear what y'all think. We start out with a crazy sentence, and that is Scarlett Boboing your way to the top. Scarlett Bobo mentioned. Listen, I don't have any qualms with people getting all the way to the end of a season without any wins. If you are standing out enough that you're getting into the top, but you're not flopping hard enough to land in the bottom, I'd say that you're doing a pretty good job. Look at Courtney Act. Courtney had, I think, 2 wins, got the first one at the very early part of the season and didn't get another one until like top 6 or 7. And nobody had any problems with Courtney not getting any more wins. There's something to say about being safe, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. When we walk into the room, Xana reminds everyone that Perla has not stepped up her makeup game. I'm gonna be so honest, I don't see the problem either. I think Perla's face is fine, she's beautiful. There are some girlies who really like to wash out their face in the same way that in the early 2000s there were girlies that wanted to be orange. Let people paint the makeup they want to paint. Perla looks beautiful. And then she asks the room for unasked for critiques of everybody else's drag. She's so standable. I cannot with this girl. I want to say my truth, and that is Xana is the Chanel Oberlin of Canada's Drag Race. Earlier in the season, Sangina compared her to Plain Jane, but she is nothing of the sort. This girl is fully Chanel from Scream Queens. And I just stan her. She's making such good TV. And honestly, this whole episode centered around her so hard. If I didn't know better, I'd say she was a production plant. So the library is open once again, and honestly, maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe this is a condemned building that should have remained closed, because it was bad. Like, bad. I really enjoyed Perla's read of Michaela saying that she's the Nepo baby of Canada. Chef's kiss. And I didn't really laugh at anything else. They also seem to have cut a lot of content. Overall, it sort of just seemed like some cuts of mild, mean digs, casual observations. There wasn't even anything recycled. Like, if you don't have a good read for your sisters, there's 70 seasons worth of content that you could just pull from. That didn't stop Nina Bonina Brown from stealing Latrice Royale's read. Probably only a handful of super fans would eagle eye if they stole something from another challenge. I was kind of disappointed. I did giggle at some of what Minnie said. I giggled a little bit at what Helena said, but overall I thought Perla was like the funniest one for me. My favorite part of this though was Xana quoting American Horror Story Coven, saying that they couldn't toast a piece of bread with the heat they were making. God, I'm such a stan of this woman. She is so good. I love Xana so much. I can't help it. I love this character archetype of hers. And at this point, I was really worried for the maxi challenge of Snatch Game. And then Brooke started mentioning Survivor references left and right. And so I thought, what the heck is this having to do with the Snatch Game? I thought it was going to be like a survival style Snatch Game, which to be honest, I think that would have actually been fairly interesting. The part that was troubling is that they didn't even do a walkthrough with Brooke. Normally we would at least get a couple people, maybe quick shots of 2 or 3 people being told their Snatch Game idea wasn't funny, and we didn't get that. I'm assuming it happened. There's no way that didn't happen. So I was a little bit confused on why that got cut. Again, if I didn't know any better and if I wasn't a advanced brain human being, I would think that there was some type of plant amiss, because this episode kind of veered a little bit into the too uncanny valley with the way things worked out. Why are you screaming? So let's talk about these characters really fast. Helena was doing Jennifer Tilly, and I have been waiting for years for a Jennifer Tilly. I have been so endlessly confused why we've had so many Jennifer Coolidges when Jennifer Tilly is right there. Helena had the voice, she had the mannerism, she had the silly empty-headedness. I really loved her. I'm not a doctor, Brooke, I'm an actor. And for anyone who is tuning in to Dragula this year and actually saw her sit down and converse with other human beings, Jennifer Tilly is that girl, and Helena captured that energy so flawlessly. I was disproportionately confused on how that Snatch Game was rated low. Michaela almost did Tiffany Pollard, which I think honestly would have been a better choice for her. Michaela is a strong, independent, powerful Black woman. And that's who New York is. And the last time that she was portrayed, I don't think anybody else has done it since Naomi. Maybe one person did and I'm forgetting. She hasn't been portrayed well on the show. Michaela's got that power and force to sell New York as a character, and I think she could have easily been the drama of that Snatch Game and just caused a ruckus, but in a controlled way that I think she would be able to do. Landing on Oprah was a strange choice. I did not like this frumpy dumpy librarian look, and Brooke was throwing watermelons at her. Like, fully just like, pick that up. And Michaela was like, was there a joke? I didn't see it. You're supposed to yes and in improv, and she was but knowing. And where were the bread comments? Come on. She could have at any point just leaned in on that. I love bread. I love the Snatch Game. I love it. Like, she could have done anything with that character. Perla did Mary-Kate Olsen, and my God, this was hysterical to me. If you've ever talked to any millennial person ever, like anyone who's ever breathing, that's a millennial, you know that we all talk like that.
Honestly,
we have this dry sense of humor. She was coming off like a millennial vlogger, and I was loving every second of it. It was so not Mary-Kate, but it was so perfectly a meme. I was super confused on her bottom placement as well. And like, the judges were really trying to make these negative critiques stick, and every time they said anything, I just thought, what Snatch Game did y'all watch? But then I remembered that the dossier probably said, everybody sucks, don't say anything nice. Virgo did Lynn Toller, the TV judge personality, and I think I've seen this person before a couple times on TikTok and YouTube, maybe even a break room or two back at my old 9-to-5. It was flat. Like a lot flat. And she was just not connecting at all. Where Michaela was but knowing, Virgo was, there's literally nothing to even compare this to. Like, she was just not there. And not even in a way that Priyanka was in season 1, where if you were to go back and watch that Snatch Game, Priyanka's not there. She is existing in that space, but she is not there. It was like that, but kind of worse. Even Virgo mentioned that she was not really even sure where she was. Like, she felt lost. And you could see that plainly on her face. That moment where Brooke asked her a question and she just said, yes. And Brooke said, do you want to tell me about that? It was like another watermelon, like, here you go, girly, catch it. And she was like, me? Uma did that rainbow sponge lady, and let me tell you, I have watched that rainbow sponge meme where she is cackling and gooning over those rainbow sponges like 100 times since that video first dropped on the internet. Uma was my favorite. Her look was incredible. She looked just like the bitch. Her cadence was perfect. The way that she sounded like she was gonna cackle and cream at the exact same time. I even loved her POV of saying, oh, I'm here at the Snatch Game to sell my new product. You probably know me from this, but here I am selling this new thing, marketing the product and trying to sell it. I thought that was a fun POV. It helps you navigate your improv to have a clear line that you're following so you don't get lost. And I was just like, why did that not get recognized? I even loved the reference to the rainbow sponges with her applying that on accident. And the judges were really upset about her using props. But I've seen plenty of Snatch Games where the critiques were, you played this character, but you didn't do anything. You had a prop there, but you didn't use it. You should have done X, Y, and Z with those props in every time, done a little bit more. And so that was also confusing to me as well. She had a clear story, a clear POV, and that got unnoticed. I just loved her. She was my favorite. Xana was considering Leah Michelle, which I think would have been really funny because I think there's a lot of I can't read jokes that would have happened, like writing down an answer but then asking someone else to read it for her, playing off of that and be like, that's right, that's what I said. But she chose Betty Page. The ghost of Miss Vanjie's Cash Me Outside voice infiltrated Xana. I know Xana's been watching a couple of these, so if you are, know that I still stan you. I love you. I'm never really a huge fan of the high-pitched voice in Snatch Game, like going all the way up here to do something. I'm not really ever a fan of that. It kind of takes me out of the illusion. I think it would have been even funnier to maybe pitch the voice down or do a very heavy accent. I think Xana's very funny and I think this Snatch Game was super solid. That was my only nitpick of this. And what I thought was the funniest part to me was that Brooke immediately calls Xana as the winner and she didn't break character because she wasn't sure if she was supposed to, probably, and still stayed in her voice and was like, oh boy, I'm so glad I won. And then Minnie did this communist dictator. I actually didn't really write any notes down about her character because I thought it was funny, like a very safe funny. I didn't laugh out loud a ton, but I sort of just smirked and smiled. I didn't find it cringe at all, which she didn't get that critique, but like really the only ones that I was like, ooh, about were Michaela and Virgo. So the wooden beaver is supposed to change everything, and I think it was really hyped up as being bigger than what it was. And let's talk about that really quick before we talk about the runway. I enjoyed this twist of normally we pick who the bottoms are, but you're going to this week. Truthfully, honestly, I think this could have been saved for next week. And I'm very confused why the beaver is going away in its entirety. But based off the first design challenge, next week seems like the perfect time to decide. Probably only one person's gonna do really good and everyone else might not. So let's zoom in on next week and force them to do something crazy and let that be the end, because we'll be in top 6, there will be some people saved, and then we'll go into top 5, and that's the perfect time to cancel the beaver, since that's the one that leads to the finale. And we'll put a pin in that for just a little bit to talk about the runway. The category is Alien Superstar, and yet again, I have a question. We had a Alien Challenge week 2. Now we have an Alien Runway 4 weeks later. I always like when challenges meet up with each other and they intersect. And I want to know what happened in the construction of this season when they were putting everything together. Why the Alien Runway was so disconnected from that challenge, because a couple of the other queens have posted their looks and they were stellar. And I think that would have really changed a lot of the way that that second episode trickled down. And then that runway category would have worked just fine for here, because nothing about aliens connected to Snatch Game or even the Survivor theme to me. I don't watch Survivor, but I have seen clips. I know a little bit about it. Maybe there is an entire season where it's all Survivor alien space themed, but I always associate Survivor with tropics, jungles, beaches, campfires, things like that. And I thought this kind of disconnected from that. So I don't know why other things weren't kind of swapped around. But overall, this was strong. So we started with Oh My God, who is doing a caterpillar inspiration. I liked it. I think all the beads and balls that are hanging off this are fun. Hanging balls. My favorite part was that it jingled as she walked. Like as she was going back, it was like brr, brr, This was a very high look for me. I thought it was super strong, and a deviation from her normal makeup was cool to see. Next out is Minnie Wang, and holy smokeronies, this was one of the coolest things that I think I've ever seen on Canada's Drag Race. This goes up there with some of the things that Fierce did. Like, I think about that swamp character that Fierce did. Like, this is kind of up there with that. I love the details. I love the bodysuit. I don't even care that it's another bodysuit. These thick paillettes that are all over it. I love this. And even the spray painting on it with these gradients of green, it looked like a spectacle. Minnie should be very proud of what she did here. Next up is Michaela Couture, and the very first thing I thought of was that alien from Fifth Element, so I was so glad that Brooke also mentioned that as well. The blue looks beautiful on her. I love the silver. She looks so badass. And I love the contacts and the eye makeup. Everything about this is A+. I don't think it saved her performance in the Snatch Game because I think everybody else was still really strong, but like, Michaela ate this up. Next out is the Virgo Queen. My first thought was Alien Britney Spears because of this very specific saturation of red PVC. I think overall it looks fine. The lips were a little confusing to me. I think they were almost a little distracting, but that's really it. Next out is Xana, and she mentions Sigourney Beaver. I'm sure there will be plenty of Twitter ats happening. She's doing an alien look, and we've had a lot of alien looks represented in the Drag Race franchise. So we had Chelsea Boy do it in Holland, season 1, episode 1. Le Grand Dame do a alien look in UK versus the World 2. I believe that was episode 2, the Ball Challenge. Now we've got this. So in the pantheon of the alien looks, this is quite high to me. I still think that Chelsea Boy was probably the best in this category, but I like the changing up of the silhouette to be the skull and to be the carcass. I think the pink is really fun. Overall, this is a solid look. And what I love the most is the construction of the tail, because it's got all this movement in it, and that's not always something that's captured very well. This was high glam. And I mean, when you think alien superstar, there's a lot of ways your brain could go with that. And the way that Xana thought, all right, I'm gonna go off Alien, the movie, and then I'm gonna make that alien queen yassified. I liked it a lot. This was a strong look. Next out is Perla, and this look is receiving super high praise online, and rightfully so. I think this pink looks beautiful on her. It's hilarious to me that Perla has been told week after week to warm up her face and add more color to it. Xana even mentions that at the beginning of the episode, and then Perla comes out in stark pink. Again, if I was not an intelligent human being, I would think that Xana was a production plant putting storylines into motion, because this was almost camp the way that this lined up with her critiques lately. Love the hair. I think it's super cool. It's like giving me C-ring, and I love that. Like, the small one at the top is the trainer, and then the other one is for the whole shaft, and then the other one is for the bits and bobbles and the shaft. I think the colors are cool. I like this mosaic of all these different textiles. They look like they've been manipulated in a way that gives them a lot of texture and detail. Plus there's like stoning and beading. It looks like there might even be buttons on there. I think the shoes are super cool with this because they've also got all of these elements to it. And then using florals and what looks like nails, like press-on nails to add more detail. This is so cool. Actually, no more than I'm looking at it, the more I'm seeing all these press-on nails. They're everywhere on this in different colors. This is a fantastic look in a different universe. I think that Perla would have been the winner of this challenge, with probably Uma and Xana being right behind her, in my opinion. Also, Perla, if you're watching this week, I'm so sorry I didn't eagle eye that your cigarettes from last week were different lengths. Thank you for noticing me. I stan you, and I think you're brilliant, and I'm totally normal about the fact that you added me on Twitter. I'm not like freaking out or anything. Next out is Helena Poison, and I was immediately getting Ursula. I think it's cool. This mug is mugging. I love the corset. I love the bones that are on it. I love that it's all been glitterified. This looks like it came out of a Doctor Who episode, and I'm obsessed. Everything about it is perfection. I think this really solidified a high placement. Again, adding to my confusion on why this episode ranked everyone at the bottom, because none of it made sense. So Xana gets to sit off to the side and watch all the critiques, which was camp. And Brooke is mad. She's upset that it feels like nobody tried, nobody wanted to be there. Again, that dossier must have said something because I fully disagreed with these critiques. Some of them felt like they didn't want to be there, and I think those two are pretty obvious. Everybody else was really present from what we saw. And that leads me to something I mentioned in Drag Race Thailand, is it feels like something was left out. Something we did not see that added more context to this episode, because this anger seems so unjustified from what we perceived. And in my opinion, the edit of the show has to support the narrative that happened on the ground. So if you're gonna tell us this was a miserable Snatch Game, nobody seemed to wanna be there, you should include some shady cuts of some of the contestants not answering the question right and getting the rattlesnake noise and doing that across the board so it seems like everyone did bad. Because the critiques just don't stick with what we're seeing, in my opinion. Brooke says that Uma was not funny, and I disagree. Michaela was told that she was closed off, and I did not get closed off from Michaela. I got that from Virgo. For me, Michaela seemed lost, but she was trying really hard. Perla was told that she only went in at 70%. Again, huge disagree because Perla was doing the thing. And Helena was told that her impression was spot on, but she was half there, half not. And I'm like, did we ask AI to be like, give me some critiques to tell people that we didn't like what they did, but we don't want to tell them that they're garbage? And AI said, here's a nice way of telling someone that you didn't think their performance was good. And then they just read off these critiques, because that also did not make sense to me from what we saw. Helena seemed very present, very in the moment, and was super Jennifer Tilly. So when the wooden beaver is finally announced and we get all the breakdown of what it's gonna do, I was gagged. My jaw was hitting the floor. This wooden beaver got passed around more times than poppers at a Sniffies meetup. And at this point, it's coming down to alliances. Perla saved Xana earlier, so she wants the favor returned to her, and even mentions that this could be the end of the beaver and there might be no chance to save her ever again. So Xana picks Perla because of that. And she mentions in her confessional that she wants to beat the competition, and she thinks that she could beat Perla later in a lip sync. This woman is so incredibly stannable. I just am obsessed with her as a TV personality. To say that, knowing that it's gonna get aired, and then for Perla to see it later, I'm like, what did she think about this after the fact? I want one of those YouTube tea spill videos to pop up and be like, Perla is pissed at Xana for saying that she'll beat her in a lip sync. And then it'll be both of them being like, Then Perla decides to pick Helena, and they're edged until the runway where Helena's choice is given. And this is honestly the worst position to be in because all the expectation is on you. And she says that this is not only a game, but a competition. And she thinks that there's one queen who does not deserve a bottom placement. And to be completely honest, I agree. I don't think that Minnie deserved to be in the bottom at all. So she saves Minnie, which is wild, but also smart. Because then you can get a super strong competitor maybe out of the way now. You've got Uma, who excels in comedy, despite what this episode tried to tell us. You've got Michaela, who is so charismatic, and the judges always respond to high charisma. And you got Virgo, who is just good at everything, except Snatch Game. And so, honestly, it makes sense to let them all lip sync because one of them's gonna go home, one of your strongest competitors are out, and not to say the others in the room are not strong competition, but these are the front runners that are here, and to me, and I think most of the girls in the room. However, I don't know if a lot of them see Uma as strong competition, but I think she is. I thought for the lip sync, which was Hello, and I knew this song, I love this song, Uma was giving Raver Girl, just dancing, vibing, having a good time. I could not keep my eyes off of her because she was just so fun to watch. Michaela had so much dynamicism and was incredible. Great performer, burned the runway down, hit all the moves, where I felt like Virgo was just trying to get through it. Her energy seemed a little bit low, and that honestly could have been physical damage done to her by those shoes. I'm super gagged that she did not switch out of those shoes for the lip sync. So then the lip sync ends, is that Uma is out, and I don't think she was the worst in that lip sync. Did I want to see Virgo go? No. Did I want to see Michaela go? No. But next week, it looks like Michaela's walking out. So if that happens, are they gonna bring someone back the following week? Because if anyone's gonna get a redemption, I think it should be Uma. Because they've got a certain number of episodes they've ordered. So Either they do a non-elim, or they eliminate someone and bring someone back, which I think Uma probably would deserve that. So like, no shade, but knowing that Michaela might walk out next week makes me wish that maybe she had been eliminated this week so that Uma could have gotten one more since she's got fire. And Michaela seems like she's a little bit frustrated. But who knows, maybe she doesn't actually walk out. Based off of how the first design challenge went, I'm expecting Perla and Xana to do quite well. I'm expecting Minnie to make something that is fierce, but maybe not something that Brooke would wear. And I'm expecting Virgo to maybe not be as strong. I'm expecting Michaela to not be as strong. And that leaves us with Helena, who seems to know what she's doing, but I don't know if her aesthetic would line up with what Brooke does. So I see a universe where it's Michaela, Virgo, and Helena in the bottom again, and I don't really know what's gonna happen. Either way, this season is juicy and I'm really loving it. I just feel like some of the production heavy-handedness this episode I was not responding to. I commend Canada's Drag Race for always trying to do something new, reinventing itself, never afraid to reference or not reference, spit on it, poop on it, eat it, vomit it out. I think that's great. I think some of the choices this season have been great to see a deviation, but this one I was just not feeling too hard. I want to know what y'all think, so let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see y'all next week for another one. See you on the flip.